I went to the University of Florida, quite a change from a little boy who grew up in Miami. So I went there sight unseen, and I loved it. I loved the rural aspect of it. And when I went to Florida, I wanted to be a business major of all things. And quickly, with all the math and economics, I'm like, oh, let me see about maybe a change in majors. So I went to a guidance counselor. So it was really by happenstance. I didn't grow up wanting to be a lawyer, let alone a judge. But the guidance counselor said, well, have you considered political science as a major? I was struggling to find a major. And I'm like, I'll take some classes. I took pre-law classes, and I thought it was so interesting. And that's how I found my way into the law. And from those pre-law classes, I'm like, I want to be a lawyer. And the rest is history, as they say. Cuban American. I mean, I'm Cuban American. I'm first generation American. I was born in 1968. My father and both my mom and dad are Cuban. My dad came here 59, 60, shortly after Castro took over. And he, I think it was The Lost City. I'm not sure the movie, I'm saying it correctly, there was an airport scene. It's about Cuban exiles. And I saw the movie with my father talking about the movie, and I saw it. I think it was Andy Garcia, I think was in that movie. Very, very powerful movie. I think anyone should see that to see the experiences that Cuban Americans have experienced. But my father, when he saw the airport scene, when you go through the checkpoint and they open up the briefcase or the suitcase, everything is taken from you, all mementos. And we're talking just about valuables, but we're talking about family mementos, things that have been in the family for generations, taken from you, stripped from you, and in essence, off you go with nothing basically but the clothes that you have. And that's how my dad, in essence, left Cuba. My grandparents, his parents saw what was happening with all the loss of rights and liberty and no due process and the advent of socialism and communism. And then my mom, through the Catholic Church in the Pedro Plan flights, she came in about 2 or 3 years later. Again, she didn't see her parents till after I was born. And she had all those formative years here as a young teenager into a young woman, and then marrying my father, and then seeing her parents for the first time after all those years. So obviously I'm Cuban American, and it's really influenced me. I know you asked some questions down the road about the law and why I want to be a judge and or a lawyer, but we'll get into that in a moment. But I'm just so grateful for this country because of that background. And my mom always says, my mom is a very strong person. She's always said to me, Alberto, we're not victims. We are strong people. And we came here for a better life, for an opportunity that this country provides. And this is the greatest country in the world. And you make no excuses. You work hard, and good will come. If you're a good person, and you treat other people right, and you work hard yourself, get your education, you can overcome anything in life. So that's the background as far as I came, as far as for my parents, being Cuban American, and the mindset that my mom and dad gave me, and being so appreciative of our country. Yes, I'm actually the first college graduate. As I indicated, my mom, if I can share a story with you, she, getting back, my mom and dad, when they came here, they couldn't speak the language. Obviously, they spoke Spanish. They had to learn English to try to go through school and to graduate and go through high school. My dad ultimately worked 2 jobs to support the family. So my mom would not only work, but she would support, as far as the children, myself and my sister, and making sure we were doing our homework and taking us to practice for baseball or otherwise. They were a unison in making sure that we were good kids and that we were brought up right. And they worked very, very hard for that. My dad, like I said, worked those 2 jobs just to support us. So as kids, myself and my sister, I think we saw that. With regards to my parents, as far as the hard work, and it kind of obviously resonated on us now as adults. But so I was the first to go to college. I went to the University of Florida to graduate, and then the first to go to law school and graduate. And I was a prosecutor for 20 years. The last 9 years or so, approximately, I prosecuted capital homicides, and then I was very fortunate to be a judge, and so I'm the first also in my family to be a judge. So, but it has nothing to do with me. It really doesn't. I'm very humbled, first off, to have that immense responsibility, which I carry on my shoulders every day. It's very humbling, and you want to make sure you do it right. But it's because of my parents. It really is, because one, and because of my grandparents, because allowing them to come here for the opportunity to go from Cuba to escape Castro, and then my parents showing me how to be a good person and to treat others right, gave me the work ethic, et cetera, to be able to be in the position I am today speaking to you. Well, kind of like when I went to college, I never thought about wanting to be a lawyer. I always thought, oh, let's go into business school. And then I went to political science, and then that's how I discovered the law. Then I went to, it's interesting, before off camera, before we went on the record, if you will, we were just talking about, I'm a Miami kid. So how did I make it to Broward? Because if not, I'd be practicing in Dade County. So after Florida, after I graduated, I wanted to go to law school. I got accepted by Nova, and that's what brought me to Broward. And now Broward is clearly my home. But when I went to law school, I had no idea. What do I want to do? And I'm like, well, definitely litigation. I want to talk. I just like being in nothing against transactional work. I just wanted to be in the courtroom, and I thought I would enjoy that. So, but I wasn't sure. Like, you're still a young person. So I took an internship at the Broward County State Attorney's Office, and I thought it was a really great job. So I got my foot in the door. And then I practiced law for 20 years. And as I practiced for those 20 years and being a public servant and doing the best job that I could for our community, I started thinking, well, what is my next step in my career if I'm going to take one? And then I thought, as I got older, if you will, close to those 20 years before I left the state attorney's office, I thought, well, you know what, let me try being a judge. It's such an important job. There's a great deal of responsibility akin to being a prosecutor and making sure things are done right and seeking justice and following the rules, et cetera. So it was kind of an evolution for me based upon me being a lawyer and then wanting to continue serving the public. And I thought that would be the best job for me in a different role. So many things come to mind. Fairness is the first thing that pops into my mind. We all wear the black robe for a reason. And that is a position of neutrality, to be fair. And this dovetails a little bit into my experience we spoke about earlier, an earlier question about my parents fleeing Castro. Due process, fairness is so important to being a judge. When the litigants come before you, you want to make sure that they all have an opportunity to be heard. They may not like your decision. And usually they don't. Half the room doesn't. And that's okay. That's part of the job. But the key part is that from a judge is an opportunity to be present, an opportunity to be heard. And procedural and substantive due process is so important to me because you don't get that in Cuba. You speak your mind in Cuba, and you know what happens. They come and they pick you up, and you don't have a court. You're going to be imprisoned for how long they ever want you to be imprisoned, and you can be tortured and, God forbid, killed. It's happened. And I can't stress what's happening and continues to happen in Cuba to this day. But that's why this country is so special. It doesn't happen in this country. We have due process of law, and I think the first thing that really pops in the mind with regards to the job of a judge is one of fairness and dignity and to be respect. Now, we're human beings. I'm mindful of that. We're going to have good days and bad days. We're going to lose our patience. But as a judge, you need to be able to evaluate, okay, I had a bad day, why? Or if certain things make you less patient, why? You always have to self-analyze yourself to make sure you can catch and what you can do better as a judge to grow, to make our system better. In addition to the issue of fairness, the other thing that's very, very important as a judge is a healthy respect for the Constitution and the separation of powers. In other words, we are the judge. We have to know what our job is, and that is to follow the law. This is a republic. And it is not a republic if judges do whatever they want. So if I don't like the law, it's okay to personally not like a law, but I have to follow it. That's the oath that I took. And if I don't follow it, if I don't follow law, even though I don't like it, even though I don't like the consequences of my decision, then we don't have a republic. This is not a democracy. This is a legislature of one, and that's not the way our system of government was set up. That's why we have the legislature. Let them make the laws, we interpret it. So I think it's very important of judicial restraint, along with fairness and dignity and patience for those who appear before us. If there's anything about favorite is that, where I sit right now, if I could think, it's really what I'm assigned to. I'm assigned to the dependency bench. So I believe that in a judge in that assignment, the assignment that I have, you see two things. One is parents who are in a very difficult position, and services are provided to them to rectify the problem that brought them to court, so they can safely parent their children. And that is a special day when I see that happen, when the parents meet all their services, they gain insight, and they can be reunified with the children. The emotion in their eyes, you see tears constantly, overcoming whatever battle they have, whether it be substance abuse issues or mental health issues, for example, and taking it seriously. And as a judge, I can maybe do some good in trying to speak to them and guide them as best I can as a neutral arbitrator to make sure they understand the seriousness of the proceeding so they can better themselves to be better people, so therefore they can be better parents. And on the flip side to that, the children of parents who don't get it together. Now, I don't want to use the word favorite because these are very sad proceedings, but to be able to provide permanency for those children through adoptions where their parents cannot get it together, cannot safely parent, are very special days too. So in essence, where I'm sitting at right now, I guess, from a child standpoint, from a family standpoint with the parents, is the ability to try to do good in our community, to help families and to help children to find permanency. So I think that's it's very special to me. Nothing immediately pops to mind as to one particular moment, but it's the joy, and it kind of dovetails to the last question. It's what's fond is what I find great fondness in what I'm doing right now, and being assigned to the dependency division, is being able to, in some way, to help families, to help children, without naming cases which I can't talk about specifically, but to able to have families reunified in a safe manner, or to be able to find in an adoption. You see the joy in the adoptive parents and the child finding permanency, a safe and permanent, a forever home, if you will. Those are special days, they really are. So it's really a compilation of many different fond moments that I get to see every day. I see obviously very sad moments too, but I'm just very fortunate, and I know I've used this word before in this interview, humbled. It is, I can't stress to you the immense burden the job entails, especially me being a perfectionist, because even though you want to be perfect, you can't. So it's just doing the best you can every day, and having members of our community and trusting me with this job is something that I take very seriously. I think diversity is extremely important. We have, Broward County is a diverse community, and I think the bench should be reflective of our very special and diverse community here in Broward. I do not believe diversity for the sake of diversity, because I think that does nothing but perpetuate negative stereotypes. So when I mean diversity, we want to have folks who are diverse and competent in the positions that they hold, and that will enrich the fabric, in this case, of the judiciary. And diversity takes on many different meanings. It takes on cultural meanings, racial meanings, gender, type of experience, age. It goes on and on and on. So do we need more Hispanic judges on the bench? Absolutely. We need more qualified Hispanics on the bench because it further enriches the bench. It gives you different viewpoints, different cultural viewpoints. Even within the Hispanic community, there's different cultures. It's not monolithic. You have South Americans, Central Americans, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, et cetera. It goes on and on and on, which bring a beautiful and different tradition and culture and viewpoint, how they were brought, how one is brought up and experiences life. And that does nothing but strengthen the bench. But that goes for not just Hispanics, everyone. It really does. And so I think we always need to continue to have a diverse bench because all the different viewpoints does nothing but strengthen the bench for the people who appear before the court. And I think it further enhances the integrity of the judiciary if we have that diversity. Well, I think it's tremendously important. As I indicated, we're not monolithic, but yet we share similar cultures, as us being Hispanics. As I indicated, whether you're Cuban, Puerto Rican, Brazilian, you're from Mexico, Dominican Republic, it goes on and on and on. Colombian, Central American. It's important for us all to be together. We have shared interests and shared cultures. It may have a little bit differently here and there, right? Based upon how you're brought up or where you're brought up. It's important to gather and share our cultures and experiences amongst ourselves and strengthen ourselves as a community. And it's not just from a legal perspective and advancing ourselves legally, whether it be as lawyers or the judiciary, but from a business standpoint in the business community, from a humanitarian standpoint, to help those in a time of need, would be in our country, in our own community, who need assistance, who need a hand up because they've gone through hard times, or whether it be other human beings in other areas of the world who have experienced hardships and need assistance. So we need to band together to help those. And quite honestly, the way I look at it, it's not just Hispanics, but it's globally, it's humanity. And we need to reach out as unified, as members of the Hispanic community, to help those, to reach across, if you will, and help those, regardless of whether they're in the Hispanic community or not, to help those folks as well, to better their lives. So we should all be better human beings as a whole. The first thing is this, is if you look at it, the position of being a judge as, this is so cool, I'm gonna have so much power. Don't become a judge. It's that simple, because you're gonna abuse it. It's all about mindset and temperament. It really is. If you go look at it as a tremendous responsibility, you're going to be a reflection of the Hispanic community as well, not just yourself. So if you fall, if you abuse the responsibility, the Hispanic community falls. And so it's not just individual, it's community-based. So you have that extra burden to carry. But if you want it, you can do it. This is the greatest country in the world. And if you work hard, you treat others with respect, you can overcome anything, and you can do and be anything in this world. And if you want to be a judge, work at it, work hard. But I want to stress, the key to being a great judge is temperament. That is the foundation, the house of a judge, if you will, as far as being a great judge. The foundation is temperament. You have to be humble. It has to be a great burden. If you see it that way, and you don't take yourself too seriously. I mean, I still find it weird when people say, "Hey, Judge," I'm like, "Just call me Al, please." I understand it's just a respect for the office. That's why it is. I still feel very uncomfortable with it. I always will be, and that's okay. That's something I got to work through. But it's a respect for the office. It's not, and then people somehow transition it to respect for them as an individual. No. When they rise and you go into that courtroom, it's a respect for the office. It doesn't make you the smartest person in the room. It doesn't make you infallible. It just means you make the final decision in the case. You can be wrong, and you are wrong, because that's part of the human condition. You make mistakes. So you have to be humble, and you have to look at it as a great responsibility. And if you do that, one, you can be a great judge. Number two, then go out and get it, and you can do it. And that part of doing it is working hard in law school. And guess what? Always, if you get an A, B, or C, it's okay. You don't have to be a straight A student to be a judge. Learn the material. And I'm talking to the law students now, because it can be disheartening. And I know, I've been there. You're there, you study, you work, and work, and work, and work, and you're like, I know this inside and out. But the score in your test is not reflected. And you get very depressed. That does not define you as a lawyer, ultimately. That does not limit you as to how far you can go in the legal profession. What that just means is, you look, okay, you didn't write it maybe a certain way, or the way you wrote it, or whatever the case may be, as long as you know the material, know your evidence, know your crim pro, or criminal procedure, or civil procedure, know it, learn it, don't be disheartened if you don't get straight A's. It's okay, it happens. So as far as law students, it's a marathon. So stay in it, don't give up, never give up, as Winston Churchill said. All right? That's one of his famous quotes, never, never give up. So work hard if you're a law student. And when you become a lawyer, work hard as a lawyer. You always grow. The law is ever changing. That's one of the challenges as a judge. It always changes. And you have to be careful. That's another thing as far as being a judge is you never know everything because law always changes. You have to be humble enough to learn. So my advice for lawyers, for law students is work hard, learn the material. That's the key. And then when you become a lawyer, and you will be, if you work hard, is just work at your craft. People think as a lawyer, your reputation is so important. And guess what? That reputation will follow you should you want to either run to be a judge or be appointed through the gubernatorial process. So reputation is so important. Your word should be your bond, okay? And guess what? 15, 20 years from now, like, oh, I want to be a judge. They'll be talking to those people that you dealt with, clients, other lawyers. How was this person? Were they honest? Were they hardworking? Were they fair? They may not agree with you, but the question is what kind of person you are from a temperament standpoint. And that is, if you treat other people with respect, even though they disagree with you, you could have a hard litigation as long as you do it above board. And as long as you have a good reputation, it comes back to help you. So that's important. As a lawyer, you can not only work hard, but stay within the rules. As a football coach would say, stay within the whistles. When the whistle starts, the play starts. When the whistle stops, no more hitting, no more tackling. The play's over. So stay within the rules. If you stay within the rules and you work hard, that's going to help you become a judge.